Hello, it's Karen Berniston here with my monthly designer challenge video. The theme this month is rainbow, and I will be using our new Whirly Wheel die set. This is going to be a fun technique where you turn the wheel and the two halves of the rainbow are going to come up, expand, kind of create a full rainbow, and then return back. This is a postcard style card, so the back is where I will write my personal greeting. I will be combining 3 dies on this project: Whirly Wheel, Rainbow Add-ons, and Rectangles and Labels Crosshatch. I will also use 2 of our stamp sets, so the Whirly Wheel words and the rainbow greetings. Okay, with the rainbow die out of the rainbow add-ons, the stripes are individual, but they are connected at the ends. So that way, if you don't want to have to combine different colors of cardstock, you can actually color your rainbow with either markers or inks. So my suggestion is use something like Post-it notes to mask off the stripe that you're coloring. And then it's pretty easy to just go in there with either some ink or a marker and color those stripes. So I'm going to need 2 rainbow pieces, and I'm coloring them both using Distress inks. Now the reason the rainbow add-ons die set is considered an add-ons is because it is perfectly sized to fit on our arch pop-up to make pop-up rainbows, but you can certainly use this die set just as a decorator die on its own. So here are my 2 rainbows. Now one thing I have to consider, because I am using the Whirly Wheel, is that these are going to be moving. So I'm making a motion card here, and I don't want the back of these rainbows to create any catch points with all of those individual stripes. So what I will do to avoid that is make the back nice and smooth. And I will do that by just gluing my finished rainbow to a piece of lightweight white cardstock. I could either cut it out with scissors, or the rainbow add-ons does have an solid arch piece that is just slightly smaller than the rainbow itself. And I definitely want to use some temporary tape to hold that die in place. And then I can roll that through my die cutting machine, and what I will end up with is a rainbow that is just a tad smaller than the original one, but also has a smooth back. The big clouds that come included in the rainbow add-ons die set are just perfect for the ends of the rainbow, so I will add 1 to each half. The largest rectangle in the Rectangles and Labels Crosshatch die set is going to be perfect as a background to my card, and I'm going to use those same 6 Distress ink colors to just go around the perimeter and add those rainbow colors. My card is going to be a 5x7, so this die set is just perfect for 5x7 cards. That large crosshatch rectangle is just slightly smaller than a 5x7, so I'll get a little bit of a border. But before I glue that to my card, I want to take out the middle. So I'm going to use the next size rectangle down to cut out the center. That will leave me with a frame that I can glue then to my 5x7 piece of cardstock. And then I use the smaller rectangle again to cut a piece of white cardstock to inlay inside that frame. Now the reason I want to put that piece in versus just, showing the white cardstock from underneath is because I do not want any edges that could create catch points for my motion card. So I want that background to be completely smooth. And that's why I want to do that inlay technique instead of, for instance, just layering the rectangles on top of each other. All right, switching to the Whirly Wheel Words Clear Stamp set. There is a stamp in the set that is round and has all these arrows on it. I want to make sure that I just let that sit on the table in its natural circular position. So I don't want to have that stretch in any way. And then I'm going to add a little bit of Versamark watermark ink to those arrows first. And then I'm just going to use brush markers to color in all the arrows. So I'm kind of sticking with my whole rainbow thing here. Otherwise, every other time I've used that stamp set, I just stamp it in black, But for this card, I thought it would be fun to have the arrows be those rainbow colors. There are a lot of great tips for the Whirly Wheel in the assembly video, and I will link that at the end of this video. But one of the best practices is to use clear packaging tape in the center of the cardstock where the wheel will cut the tabs. And then that way those tabs are going to be reinforced by the tape, and also they will just slide a little easier because of the tape. The tape will make them slick. So using the wheel to cut out my arrows, I can just look down through the wheel. All of those arrow cutouts will just line up perfectly with the stamped arrows below. So now I just have to send that through my die cutting machine, and now I have my Whirly Wheel. I have reinforced tabs in the center and apparently some hair caught underneath the tape. and then I have those arrows all the way around the perimeter. All right, well, the hair is far enough to the inside that I don't think it'll be visible, so I'm just going to leave it. All right, I want to pop out that little circle, and then I want to do 2 washers. So for this technique, typically you would only need 1 washer, but I'm going to cut 2 for this technique. And I do want to have the packaging tape over the cardstock, so the washers also need to be slick. And then on the arms, I just need the packaging tape down at what I consider the thermometer end of the arm. So where the tabs are, I want that to be reinforced with tape. And for this technique, I need 2 arms. And then the last piece I'll die cut is the sleeve, and I need 2 of those. They do not have to be tape reinforced. Okay, assembly on the sleeves. There is a tapered tab on one end and then just a fold up the middle. When you glue this into a sleeve, make sure that the tab is glued to the outside, and that way there is nothing on the inside of that sleeve that could create a catch point for the arm. So when you're assembling the sleeve, put the tab to the outside. I am a fan of glue, and especially for pop-ups and interactive cards. So I am using my LINECO neutral pH adhesive. It's in a fine tip bottle. We sell both of those items on our website. Now that my 2 sleeves are assembled, I can get to work on the wheel. So the first thing I need to do is push the 2 tabs that are in the center of the wheel to the back. So fold those down towards the back, and then that will allow me to get those tabs through the center of a washer. And what I have is I have the tape, the shiny side of the washer is going to be up underneath the wheel. So getting the tabs through the washer. Once they're through, then I fold them back out again, and then that will lock those 2 pieces together, and the slick and shiny side of the washer is up underneath the wheel. And that washer should spin very freely on those tabs, so you can go behind there and kind of spin that washer, and it should move very easily. Out on the end of the arm, the thermometer end, there are 2 tabs, so if I just fold those to the back, then I can get those tabs through the circle that's on the top of the whirly wheel. Once those tabs are through the circle, then I can flatten them out on the back of the wheel. So exactly like what's done with the washer, getting the tabs through, and now that arm should be able to spin freely in that circle. So for this card, I want to have 2 arms. So what I'm going to do is take my second arm and get the tabs through my second washer. So again, going through from the tape side of the washer so that I've got that slick surface on top of the washer that will help everything spin easily. So once I get the tabs through, I can flatten them out on the back of the washer. And then now I've got a freely spinning arm on that washer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach that just using some adhesive on 2 opposite sides of the washer. So let me just indicate that with a pen here. So 2 opposite sides of the washer, I just need a spot of glue in those 2 spots, and then I'm going to attach that so that the washer is attached to the arm, to the first arm. And, you know, one side of that is up against tape, so you're going to have to hold it for a second to get that glue to set up. But then what you will have is you will have 2 arms over the top of each other. So it's only the washer that's attached to the first arm, and that way these 2 arms will spin independently. So the first arm will spin on the washer, and the second arm will spin on the wheel. And you can actually move those around like the hands of a clock. And make sure that washer is only attached to the first arm. So there is no adhesive that connects that washer to the wheel. The washer for the second arm is attached only to the first arm. For placing the scoop die, I'll let the wheel help me do that. So I figure out where I want the wheel to go. I want it on the right side of the card. I want a little space between the wheel and the bottom of the white rectangle. And then I can just place my scoop die over the edge of the card, making sure that it is in a spot where the wheel, will line up perfectly with that scoop. And then I just need to run that through my die cutting machine. All right, now I'm ready to attach the wheel to the card. So what's very important is that I only use adhesive at the very perimeter of the washer. So those tabs have to be free to spin around. Don't use too much adhesive that can squish out and, get underneath your tabs. You've got to keep it just to the perimeter. Okay, and then I can just press that washer down to the card so that the edge of the wheel is in my scoop area. And then now my wheel will start working. So I just kind of hold one of those arms to constrain it. You can see how it's going to work. The sleeve die is really your best friend with the Whirly Wheel because it gives you a chance to check the motion. Really make sure that you've got a good smooth motion on your Whirly Wheel before you put your cover plate on, and even before you cut the slot if you're having an arm come through the cover plate. So I just need something like a tape runner so that I can move those sleeves if I need to. So what I'm looking for here on the one that's going to kind of go vertical, so my back rainbow, is I want it to be at a downward angle so that when it comes out, it shoots out to the right and then comes over. So that sleeve is going to make it shoot out to the right. And then for my other rainbow, I'm just going to kind of come up a little bit away from the wheel here. And what I'm looking for is that when the arms are all the way kind of up at the top in between the two sleeves, I've got a nice wide opening there that will expand that rainbow. So that's kind of the motion that I'm looking for. But those sleeves are not permanent yet, so I can still move them if I need to change the way that looks. But if you just do something like this, where you get that kind of wide V up at the top, and then it comes back down again, then this should be good. The other thing I need to kind of check, now this one, the arm is going to come through the cover plate and then the rainbow will attach to it. So that one is kind of less, I guess, important than the one on the right, because this one, I need to make sure that I have enough arm coming through the sleeve to hold that rainbow. So when the arm is all the way down, do I have enough arm left to hold that rainbow and not get caught up in the sleeve? And I do. So there is a spot for the closed position of my right rainbow. So that is a good location. I've got good motion to the wheel and I have a spot for my rainbow. All right, so now I need to figure out on the cover plate, what I want to do is I want to have it drop down a little bit where it just covers the right rainbow. So then I can take the die and lay it over the top and figure out how much of that cardstock needs to be cut away. And then I can run it back through and now I've made a shorter version of that same rectangle as a cover plate. All right, I need to cut a slot in my cover plate to correspond with that left arm. And I'm going to use the slot die from the Whirly Wheel for that. Now I keep that slot die attached with temporary tape to a little small Post-it note, and that way I'm less likely to lose it. It is a small die. But where I want to cut it is just right above the sleeve. So I'm going to put my temporary tape behind that paper. Then I'm going to look down through my slot die. My blade is up. And I should see the edge of the sleeve right on the bottom edge of that slot. And then just holding it in place, I can put my cover plate over the top, give it a press where that tape is, and it will transfer the die now to the back of the cardstock exactly where it needs to be to line up with that arm and that sleeve. Okay, so just carefully removing the die. Now I have that slot in the cover plate exactly where it needs to go to line up with that arm and that sleeve. Okay, so just kind of holding that in place. I can just check now the motion. Are both the arms coming up and out and not getting caught anywhere? So to get the cool whirly motion of the arm, you just need to constrain the arm, and that's what the sleeves and the slots are for. So the right arm is being constrained by a sleeve. The left arm is being constrained by both a sleeve and a slot. And that is a little bit redundant. So if I was having a little issue with that left arm, I could take the sleeve off. Now that I have the slot in place, I technically don't need the sleeve. Now on this right rainbow, I do need the sleeve because it's not being constrained by anything else. It's only the sleeve that is constraining the arm. So I need to leave that in place. But right now I can kind of figure out about where my rainbow is going to go in that flat closed position. I want to make sure that it stays in the card. And then maybe the best thing to do is just to use some temporary tape to kind of hold it on there and just make sure that it is, coming up and out and then returning back where it needs to go again. So just kind of checking the motion of that rainbow, making sure that I have it placed low enough to where it stays behind the cover plate. Okay, now I'm taking the cover plate off so that I can make my right rainbow permanent. So I can check it and make sure that it's got a good motion, that it's not getting caught up on anything. You can see the left edge of that rainbow is kind of coming close to that sleeve on the left side, but it's staying above it, so it's all working well. And then I'm going to go ahead and make my sleeve position permanent. So just go in there with some glue and make sure that that sleeve is glued down really well. And then I'm also going to make my rainbow position permanent. So what I have is I have the arm all the way in its lowest position on the wheel at the bottom. And then I'm placing the rainbow so it's only attached to the arm such that it stays in the card in the lowest position. And I have it low enough that my cover plate will cover it. So you can see I didn't actually use all of the length of the arm for this. So then I can go in with my scissors once that glue sets up and trim off that excess arm that's above the rainbow. And now is definitely the time to check it and to troubleshoot it. So if it's, not staying in the card when it comes back down, if it's getting caught up anywhere, if the sleeve is too close to the wheel, if there's not enough room above it, now is the time to fix all that because you can move that sleeve quite easily. Okay, cover plate back on. I'm still going to just hold it on there temporarily. And then what I want to do is I want to spin that wheel until everything is out to its highest position. And that will help me line up that second rainbow and figure out where it needs to be attached to the arm. Okay, so just holding that cloud into position on the arm, and I'm only going to use my temporary tape on the outside edge because the inside edge is going to have to slide back over that slot again to find that closed position. Okay, I'm going to mark onto my cover plate the inside edge of the rainbow, and that way I know where to place my happy birthday greeting. And then I also started putting some pop dots around. I have to be really careful with my pop dot placement because I can't impede the motion of the wheel. So the bottom two corners, I can put it out here on the left and then kind of in between on the right side edge. And then the left edge I can put more pop dots because it's very far away from the wheel, but I really have to watch that right side. And I don't have to worry about this arm over here getting caught up on this pop dot because the cover plate will be in between them. So I don't have to worry about that. As you can see, when I put the cover plate in, that arm will not hit that pop dot. I think this rainbow card could be good for a lot of different occasions, but I decided to make it a birthday card. So I'm going to use the happy birthday out of the Whirly Wheel words, but I'm going to curve it on my acrylic block so that it kind of matches the arc of the rainbow. So that's why I put that pencil line on there, kind of changing the arc until it looks like it fits. And then I'm just going to stamp that with black ink. One thing that's important in the area that the rainbow moves is that I don't have anything that could create a catch point. So having a stamped greeting is just perfect because it's very smooth and flat. If you wanted to do something die cut that would be revealed, honestly, I would probably inlay it. Okay, now I am ready to attach the cover plate. So it is only going to be the pop dots that hold it on. Those pop dots being carefully placed so that they do not impede any motion of the wheel or the rainbows. Then I have to get the arm through the slot and then just attach the cover plate to those carefully placed pop dots. And then, as always, check it. Check it, make sure that you've still got good motion, that you haven't created any kind of catch point. Now, attaching the rainbow to this arm, I gave myself a little pencil line when I had it on there with the magnet so that I could kind of know about where to put the adhesive. One thing that's important is that I only use the adhesive on that one edge, not on the right-hand side, because it's going to dip down below the slot. So I'm going to have part of the cloud of the rainbow is going to be overlapping the slot in the closed position. So just making sure that it kind of lines up with the rainbow underneath. Give it a test, give it some time, make sure that it's set up before you start whirling the wheel. And then again, just kind of give it a test. So make sure that rainbow is kind of coming together in that open position, that the cloud is clearing the slot when it comes back down. And then once you have a spot that you like, then you can trim off the excess arm. All right, here's the moment of truth. Everything glued down permanently. Let's see how it works. Fantastic. I just love this effect. All right, finishing out the card. So there is a frame, a two-piece frame that comes included with the Whirly Wheel die set. That's going to be perfect for framing up my greeting, sprinkling a little rainbow magic your way. So that comes on those rainbow phrases, clear stamps. I've got all this space below the rainbow that I can decorate really easily because it's not going to create any kind of catch point. So then I just finished out the front of the card with some clouds. And again, I just made sure all those clouds were below the rainbow so that I have nothing that can catch when the rainbow expands. For the back of the card, I'm back to those rectangles and labels crosshatch, just doing kind of something similar as to the front of the card. The happy birthday comes from the Rainbow Phrases clear stamps, and the sun comes included in the rainbow add-ons. This is a 5x7 card, so I will use an A7 envelope. It actually has a pretty low profile. I mean, it does have that one layer of pop dots, but I don't see this as an issue at all for mailing for a single stamp. So definitely explore this technique maybe with some other themes. So it wouldn't have to be a rainbow. It's basically an expanding arch. So could that be a balloon arch? Could that be covered with flowers? Could that be a banner that reveals a message as it expands? The idea of these monthly designer challenge videos is always just to spark an idea, and we absolutely love it when people take those ideas and run with them. If you are interested in the dies and stamps that I used on this card, check the description box below this YouTube video. There you will find supply links as well as a link to the blog post. On the blog post, you will find photographs of my card as well as links to all of the wonderful rainbow inspiration by our very talented design team. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can purchase these dies as well as find links to our other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.